Hi everybody from North Carolina Farm. Just wanted to add another farm tip specific to the equipment that you have on your farm. And I've been doing this for a while with a variety of different pieces of equipment. And the whole objective is to not sound like some fancy guy, but only really to try to help those people who have found themselves in my position. And to say also that usually when I have a challenge with a piece of equipment, I look at it like an opportunity to learn as well and pass it on. So, but here is the Gravely zero turn. In this case, it's got a 60-inch cutting base. It's a good machine. Runs nice. It runs. I have less problem with it than I did with other mowers specifically, and I'm going to name this the Skag Tiger, which had too many failure points on it, but that's neither here nor there, which is one of the reasons why I got this one. So I just wanted to, there is an inherent problem that I can pretty much put out there with a level of confidence that I wanted to bring to your attention. And this comes down to number one, trusting your intuition. When you're mowing with one of these things or cutting with one of these things, and you start hearing a steely sound, and that's the best way I can recommend what it sounds like. It's a steely sound coming from when the cutting base is engaged. It suddenly gets loud, and you have this steel on steel sound, and you're thinking spindle. You're thinking you don't know what it is. So I'm going to point out what it wasn't my case and what I think you should watch out for. In here, you'll see a series of pulleys, and one pulley is different than the rest of these. And this is this 5-inch idler pulley, and it basically is stationary. It sits on a flat, kind of a L-shaped elevated piece of metal with a bushing underneath it or a spacer underneath it, kind of put it up, and it kind of just presses slightly against this belt, and it provides stability for it. It's an idler pulley. It's a 5-inch, and it provides stability for when you engage the, you could call it PTO or cutting deck. You have this sudden kind of aggressive movement by these belts in there, and this is kind of designed to keep it from falling off. The problem with this particular machine, each one of these pulleys, including the possible spindles underneath the others, there's no grease points. There's no way to lubricate these things efficiently. And so this is why you should trust your intuition. So if you start hearing something steely sounding, chances are it could be this particular pulley in itself, because it's different than the other ones, because it's stationary. And you can run the thing, basically you can run the machine without it, but you need to have it there. So and I took this machine down to the Gravely dealer and repair people and told them I'm hearing this terrible sound. They checked it out, they tuned it up, they sharpened the blades, and they said there's no problem with it. Well, there was, and I knew there was, but I was sitting there, kind of figuring, well, maybe they're right and I'm wrong. So I continued to cut until one day recently I find this particular pulley just sitting in the lawn. And I'm going like, well, that's interesting. There it is. It just kind of ejected itself and laid itself in the grass, but made no effect on the way that it was cutting. And here's the one piece, okay? And here is this piece of metal that sits underneath on the base of the cutting deck, elevates, and there's again under here you have a spacer or a bushing, and then this bolt comes basically from the top down through the base and then connects to a bolt, so this to a nut. So this is a hex bolt connecting to a nut beneath the thing with washers. So in this particular case, what I was hearing was true. In here, you could see these bearings were just, they were wearing out. They were burning up because there was no lubricant in there, because there's no way you can easily put grease in here. So within a short period of time, this thing burned up, and it's sitting, spinning on top of this piece of metal, and then it starts vibrating, and then it starts to move over in this piece of metal. It starts cutting into it, and at the same time, it is basically like a lathe severing this hex bolt on the bottom of the of this pulley, and then it finally just cuts the hex bolt completely in half. So that's it. The main thing I'm saying is trust your intuition here. If you hear something weird, you're probably right. And many times you'll take your machines to dealers and stuff, and they will just, check out, see if it's running. If it's running, it's like, no problem. If you have a heart condition, would you treat it like that? You go to your doctor, the doctor says, well, your heart's beating, no problem. But you know that there's a challenge there, so you really need to take care of these things. Now, there's a couple of dealers that you can buy Gravely parts for. But really one of the best places to be directed to is Gravely themselves, and then they use another dealer. I think it's called ARIENS or something like that. The one thing you need to have when you're trying to order these parts is you have to have the model number and the serial number. So these machines, like all the rest of these farm machines I have, they do their best to completely hide the serial number and model numbers from you. Well, I don't care whether it's an air compressor or whatever. You just can't find the serial numbers. Well, this is one of the things I really trust ChatGPT on, because you can just, where is the serial number? Well, they say it most likely is next to the right rear tire, and sure enough, there it is. And so you can get both the model number and serial number, and then when you order something from Gravely Parts House, they're going to want to know that specific model and serial number to be able to find that specific part. Also realize that you have to really be careful, make sure that you're ordering the right parts. And some of these little parts, like that piece of metal, that's a challenging piece to describe, and they don't show pictures of it when you're getting it. So the other thing I want to let you know is when you put this new idler pulley in, this bolt is a hex bolt with a clear, smooth area on it, and then it goes into threads, and those threads have to be going straight down, which you should have, and obviously those threads and the spacer parts are there for a reason. So and make sure you get a long enough bolt, because actually Gravely sent me one that was too short, and so those are 3/4 inch hex bolts, and I can't remember the exact length, but just make sure that you are equipped with the correct one. The good thing is you can go down to Tractor Supply or most places and find the variety of those bolts easily enough. So The other thing I wanted to mention quickly is that when you open this thing up, you will notice there's a lot of play, and there's a fair amount of play in some of these long belts, because they're going long, pretty much long distance. They're going from here all the way back underneath the engine in the back, and so that pulley there, and then that spring mechanism there, that tightening mechanism, is there to have a normal amount of give in these belts, especially when you're cutting a large area of real tall grass or whatever. You know, this thing's going to have to flex, and so don't be too worried about whether you see that back belt kind of flopping around more than you'd like. It does that for a reason, and then that stabilizing mechanism right there keeps everything in line. And then this, of course, this idler pulley, I don't know why they call it an idler, but that particular thing keeps the belt kind of aligned and helps from flying off when you engage the blades. So I hope that helps, and you know, happy hunting. By the way, this particular problem happened only about a year into me having the piece of equipment, so it happened quickly. And so what you can do, and which I'm doing at least, is you can get some deep creep or some kind of other than grease, you can get some deep creep and spray it into this mechanism here, and it'll get down. You could probably do it with all these spindles and stuff, but that is a design problem, an engineering problem with this machine. And I put it out there as a warning to people who have these machines that this could happen to you. Hope this helps.